think my favorite thing that I learned this year is that almost every sea monster story was really just a whale sticking his penis out and people freaking out over it. Cause sailors would spend months at sea and then come home and brag about encounters with massive writhing sea serpents. Come to find out that it was really just a whale freeing his willy in front of him. About it, the Loch Ness Monster was 100% some whale releasing his trouser demon out for air. And since Pacific gray whales and North Atlantic right whales can pack nearly 7 feet, a whale belly up with an erection could definitely pass for a sea monster. And it gets really funny when you see how these sailors were actually describing these monsters. Like this dude, Hans Egede, he described these beasts as dreadful, terribly big, and wrinkled and rough. Whole time the whale's probably listening and taking it all as a compliment. And this was him trying to redraw it, and again, knowing what we know, this has no business being that funny. That's how you know humans are massive cat, because a whale stuck his penis out for 2 seconds, next thing you know sailors are telling their grandchildren about the time they squared up with a kraken. All of a sudden, Moby Dick makes way too much sense. And as for why they do this, easy, because they can. Someone DM me on Instagram and asked me what animal is the biggest troll, and honestly, there's an easy answer here. Because imagine you're lost in the jungle, right? You're scared, you're alone, and suddenly you hear a chainsaw. And because you're not the comic relief in a low budget horror movie, or the black guy, because let's be real, the popcorn's gonna last longer than they do. You run, not even caring what direction you're going, as long as you're getting away from the sounds of certain death. Only to find out you're running away from this feathery bastard. The Lyre Bird got its name because everything that comes out of its mouth is pure cap. This bird can imitate almost any sound it hears, including car alarms, camera shutters, and chainsaws, which is actually kind of depressing because they probably hear it all the time. Males will spend up to 6 hours flexing their vocals for females, which is impressive if you're a bird, but if you're a person hearing this for the first time, you might accidentally release a city's worth of bricks in your pants. And sometimes hikers get lost and end up following these birds because they mimic the sounds of their calls for help and even the call of a search team, making them the biggest unintentional assholes on the planet. I should probably explain before Guidelines tries to clap me. That is a stroke for its gecko, and that nonsense coming out of its tail is a nasty smelling fluid that they launch into the face of any animal or person that tries to test them. The liquid itself is harmless, but it's sticky and putrid enough to make any nosy bird or cat go temporarily vegan, especially if it gets in its mouth. You probably already knew this, but this menace to society has an Australian area code because of course he does. It sprays this liquid as salt from a pair of glands running down its tail. If you're wondering what it smells like, the answer is not very good. And honestly, if they didn't look like they were launching the next 3 generations of their family right at your face, they might be cute. And if I didn't know any better, I'd call it a school shooting, because mans look like he's busting an entire daycare out, and that's not the type of energy that's appropriate for kids. But this dragon collecting game is, because it lets you raise and train your own baby dragon. It's gonna be that one right there. Yeah, you would find this in Australia. Glaucus atlanticus, basically a small sea slug called a nudibranch. It's a gastropod, which makes it related to snails, and a mollusk, which makes it related to cuttlefish, squid, and clams. Those bright colors are actually countershading camouflage, meaning it blends in whether you're above it or below it. Blue side blends in with the blue of the ocean if you're looking at it from above, and its silver and gray underside blends in with the sunlight reflecting on the ocean surface if you're below it. This anime fighter jet has no real defense of its own, but it eats the Portuguese man of war and steals its venom through the power of appropriation. This sea slug stores the stolen stinging cells in its body, which is why they have a nasty surprise for anyone that tries to touch them. Like a true colonizer, the Glaucus has no bag of its own, so it has to steal one, and the result is a venomous sting that can cause 50 shades of agony. So why is this man holding one in his hands? Not a rhetorical question, I'm as confused as you are. Because the Glaucus atlanticus concentrates its venom, it's actually more painful and more dangerous than the man of war. The Glaucus is also a hermaphrodite, meaning they can both pitch and catch, and to avoid getting stung by their mate, they have a penis that can be as long as their body to allow them to get it on from a respectful distance. The more you know. Unfortunately, I can explain what the hell that was. Mother birds, and probably the fathers too, do what you just saw because baby birds can't fully digest the food that they get, meaning their poop still contains nutrients, and the parents are basically like, so, you gonna finish that? Just call it fast food. The reason it came out so fast is because it wasn't actually poop, it's a fecal sac, which is basically a soft bag full of nastiness. It's basically a diaper that baby birds drop deuces in so they don't have to all over their nest. Because any nest that smells like an outhouse would be really easy for predators to find and eat the chicks. So as soon as the mother bird feeds it, the chick releases its built-in diaper bag for their mother to either carry away or turn into a takeout bag. It might be gross to us, but to a mother bird, throwing out a full diaper is basically wasting food, so yeah, they eat it. But they only do this while the chick is too young to fully digest its food. Once the chick gets older and gains the bacteria it needs, it can properly digest its food, meaning mom bird can stop ordering number 2 and pretend like she never did. The more you know.
Has anyone seen a dehydrated stingray before? Oh no!
Hold on, sorry I'm late, traffic. Okay, I can explain. This thing is called a Jenny Hanover. Jenny Hanover is a dead animal that's been modified to look like a demon, devil, or a dragon. I'd say, yeah, mission accomplished. The truth about this smiling hellspawn? It's actually the dried up body of a ray or a sea skate, which are somewhat related to sharks. Now you're probably wondering why they have legs, and it's because they're one of the first memes known to man. We'll take actual dead sea skates but then add things to them to make them look like devilfish or mermaids, and then sell them to tourists that honestly just didn't know any better. And the first Jenny Hanover was courted back in 1558, and even back then it was pure cat. Of course, since humans are the dumbest smart species alive, people actually fell for it, and some people actually believe these were mythical beings that had magical powers that they could use in rituals. But really, it's just a ray that took a wrong left turn, ended up in Shell City, and got turned into a souvenir. They did you wrong, Water Waffle. They did you wrong. These animals can come back from the dead. Kind of. This insect can survive being completely frozen for months, even if 80% of the water in its body turns to ice. The New Zealand wettest heart stops beating and its brain basically turns off, but once the ice melts, this Chuck Norris cricket walks off death the same way college kids walk off hangovers, and I have no idea how. This fish can survive a drought for years by turning itself into a mummy. When the lungfish runs out of water, they bury themselves underground and cover themselves in mucus, which hardens and turns into a coffin. Then they turn off so many parts of their body that they're basically functionally dead. They can stay like that for up to 5 years until it rains again, then they'll wake up, dig themselves out, and keep doing what fish do. Basically put themselves in a grave and then climb out of it. If we could do that, life would be a bad episode of Walking Dead. This is the closest you can get because this free game lets you see how long you would survive in a zombie apocalypse, and I personally don't play it anymore because I couldn't make it past 10 days and it hurt my self-esteem. Right there if you want to try it. Last is the water bear because they can survive being dead for over 100 years. One water bear came to life after 120 years in the gulag. All he needed was a little water. Ostrich can kick with 2,000 pounds of force, which can cave your chest in and probably break a few ribs. In fact, these overgrown sand pigeons have been known to murk lions. It's because that long nail in its toe can disembowel you and cut arteries and cause you to bleed to death. And since ostriches can grow to 9 feet tall, if one kicks you, it'll land around your chest and stomach, which can easily cut your abdomen and spill your guts out. They don't have teeth, but they can bite you hard enough to break skin. And at 43 miles per hour, they're the fastest things on 2 legs, so if one decides to run you down, just hand your will to God, he'll fax it for you. But by far, the most dangerous thing about ostriches, they're stupid enough to find humans attractive and crazy enough to do something about it. Farm-raised ostriches have been known to ignore their own kind and make the kind of advances on people that would get you a workplace harassment lawsuit. Sometimes they don't stop at flirting and they'll actively try to deliver 10 inches of hell. That was not a joke, ostriches pack a 10-inch. I made this video because somebody on Instagram asked me if they could beat an ostrich in a fight, so my answer is you would get clapped. In more ways than one. Disrespectfully. Ostriches are scary. Hey yo, where the did sea lions come from? Well, sea lions are carnivores, meaning they belong to the carnivora family, which is right here. Bear with me, I'm about to get in my bag real quick. Sea lions are part of the pinniped group right there, which means they had a common ancestor with the Mustelidae group. A group that includes raccoons, red pandas, wolverines, and badgers. Which means sea lions are actually closer to trash pandas than they are to actual lions, but that's not enough, we gotta go deeper. Seals and sea lions evolved from a land version that was basically an otter on steroids with jaws like a bear. Which makes sense because the sea lion family and the raccoon, badger, red panda squad share a common grandfather with the Ursidae family. And if you've been paying attention, you know that Ursidae is the bear family. I'm talking about polar bears, grizzlies, all that stuff. Which means sea lions are basically grizzlies with better skincare and a better breaststroke. In fact, if you put a sea lion's skull next to a bear's, you can barely tell the difference. Moral of this video, sea lions are actually sea bears. When Squidward got his squid cheeks clapped by this guy, he was really getting his mixed by a sea lion. Australia might be Satan's sandbox, but they also have some of the cutest animals you've never heard of, and one of them is the bilby. It looks like that dude TikTok Science made a rabbit go on a Tinder date with Mickey Mouse, but it's neither, it's actually a marsupial, which makes it a midget kangaroo. It's also called a rabbit-eared bandicoot, and if that name gives you flashbacks, you probably qualify for senior discounts. It's actually the Australian Easter Bunny, because instead of chocolate bunnies, they give out chocolate bilbies, and if you needed a sign to go to Australia, this is it. They have one of the shortest pregnancies on the planet, popping out kids less than 2 weeks after doing the do. They basically never have to drink water because they get all the moisture they need out of the food they eat. You have to stay up late to see one because these introverts are only active at night. They spend the day hiding from the heat and social interactions underground. They carry the Australian tradition of being insanely cute while also being able to put you on a shirt because they can carry diseases like typhus and plague. But they're not all bad, and they're actually endangered since being legally blind makes it really easy for feral cats to turn them into a statistic. In fact, the whole chocolate bilby thing was designed to raise awareness for them because they were going extinct. That and rabbits are considered pests, so Australians basically told them to go f themselves. But they're still endangered, so enjoy this sand gerbil while you still can. So wombat poop is cube-shaped, and for years we had no idea why, but we finally have an answer. Wombat intestines are so long that by the time they digest their food completely, it's drier than normal because they're way better at sucking out water than we are. Because it's totally dry and because of the shape of its intestines, a wombat's Hershey kiss is actually cube-shaped, and fun fact, they actually use it to communicate with each other. Wombats will strategically drop these chocolate Rubik's Cubes in places like near a rock or on a log to talk to other wombats, and it works because square deuces are less likely to roll off. So these furry boulders drop up to 100 of these cubes a day as address markers, and sometimes they even stack them. And the higher the stack, the more likely they'll get another wombat's attention because wombats are basically legally blind. Not only do wombats use this to mark their territory and claim their hood, wombats can even use this to see if there's a possible mate in the area. And now you know why wombats poop cubes. Aren't you glad you follow me?